What's up, Curtis? How are you?
I'm doing well here
I
in.
am really looking forward to talking to you. So let me give you a little introduction. Curtis is an animal cruelty investigator, an activist. Actually, I don't remember your title, Compassionate Bay, but I think is it executive director, Compassionate Bay?
President,
President.
something like,
President.
yeah,
Executive
close
director is not
enough,
enough for you.
close enough.
But I really want to talk to you about what's going on in Sonoma County right now, because you've been leading this effort to pass a ballot initiative that is honestly just historic. It
Leading
never
one of the
before
aspects of it.
leading one aspect of it, but you and a lot of other people, Almira, a lot of other people are involved in this huge campaign. But some of the stuff that has been coming out of Sonoma County, I thought my trial was wild when they put me in jail, but some of the stuff that's been coming from the political establishment in Sonoma County is so wild, it almost sounds like a joke.
Yeah.
It is hilarious. Like what Linda Hopkins said last week, and I think I'm going to butcher the quote. I've seen some video footage of it, but from what I can tell, she is saying we cannot allow these people to ban factory farms because then animals will be killed.
Yeah,
We
more
cannot
animals are going to be hurt and killed.
Animals will be killed, which is why we need to support the corporations that are killing millions and millions of animals in Sonoma County. It is mind-blowing. How are these people so stupid, Curtis? I mean, that's such a mean thing to say, but I don't even mean the person. The behavior and the words coming out of their mouths are so stupid, they are laughable.
I mean,
So can you tell us a little about what's going on in Sonoma County in the last few weeks?
Just for some more context for people that may not know what's
First,
happening.
just start out and explain the ballot initiatives, because some people don't even know what the ballot initiative is.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people don't even have ballot initiatives in their state or their city or their locale. So ballot initiatives are a form of direct democracy, and some of the states in the USA have them. Some of them don't. I can't remember the number that do allow this. I think it's like 20, 30 maybe. Unsure on that. But if you get enough signatures for an issue that you care about, whether it be at the state level or a local level, turn them in, they get verified. You then force that locale to vote on the issue. So in the fall and partway through the winter, 2023, 2024, we collected signatures from voters in Sonoma County to put a ban on factory farms, or CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, on the ballot. And now it's an actual thing. It will be on the November ballot. It's been verified, and the real ruckus has begun. And just this past Tuesday,
and it is a ruckus. I think ruckus is a good way to describe what is unfolding.
yes, and we were more or less prepared for this, or not necessarily prepared, but we're expecting some of the things that have transpired. But what happened on Tuesday, we couldn't have envisioned this. Tuesday was probably the worst day of the campaign thus far, with some of the bad things that happened. One of them was what you were talking about. There was a Board of Supervisors meeting that we found out at the very last minute, where our issue was on their agenda. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that we found out about this is because...
And this is Linda Hopkins.
Well, Linda Hopkins is on the Board of Supervisors. I don't know if it was her that brought this up and put it on the agenda. But essentially what happened is the board voted to change the question that will show up on the ballot. So 2 months ago, the board approved of the language or the verbiage that was going to show up on the ballot. And it was set to say, to protect animals, protect public waterways, and other county goals, shall the county prohibit CAFOs. CAFOs are concentrated animal feeding operations, blah, 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 blah. But that first little hook, right, to protect animals, public waterways, and other goals, was voted on Tuesday to be removed. So now there's nothing.
There's no purpose.
There's no purpose, and
and
according
a lot of
to
people
election
don't even know
code,
what a CAFO is.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what CAFOs are.
Yeah.
But according to the election code, it says that there is supposed to be a purpose. Now, it can't be like egregiously biased, right? Like it can't be,
Yeah.
super emotional to sway somebody one way or the other. But like, that's not to protect animals or
Yeah. So you
public
couldn't say like
waterways.
to stop vile, evil factory farms that are trying to kill your puppy.
Right. And
We are going to ban CAFOs. That's not allowed.
And we
But
wouldn't
in
even
fact, the statutes, and I looked at this a little bit, the statutes say you have to describe the purpose and do not allow the Board of Supervisors to change the written question at this late stage. So that's the other thing that's shocking to me. It seems like they're just violating the Constitution of the state of California and the laws of the state of California outright because they're worried you are about to win. You are about to win, and they're scared.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would say that they're worried that we're about to win, but they're definitely worried that it's a possibility, right? Like if they thought for sure that they were going to win, like the opposition campaign was going to win, and this was a slam dunk,
And they just wouldn't care.
They wouldn't care, and they wouldn't be doing this. So it does make us feel good in that regard that this little sentence, they went through so much to like get this little thing removed, which means that what we're doing is working. That's always the flip side to this whole activism game, I call it, is that even when things don't go your way, it just shows that what you're doing is working in one way or another.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I said win, I don't necessarily even mean winning at the ballot, because the problem in California is, and you've been in California a while now, so I think you've gone through at least 2 election cycles in California. You know that on the ballot, there's dozens of ballot initiatives at the state level, at the city level, at the local level, and most people are voting in a very uninformed way. And it is very hard to break the Democratic stranglehold on California politics. And I say this as someone who's voted Democrat my entire life. My entire adult life, I've always voted Democrat. But Democratic politics in California is completely broken when it comes to animals. It is broken. And sadly, the Democratic Party, like the Republican Party around the country, is falling in a line with Big Ag. And so it's going to be a hard fight. But the key thing is even getting this question on the ballot and starting conversations. I personally think you guys should be celebrating victory regardless of what the numbers actually show on election day. Because if we start a conversation, this conversation has already started. You were in a national publication, Politico, talking about how the fight for animal rights is going mainstream. How even in places like Sonoma County, which is one of the biggest factory farm counties in the entire goddamn state. It's one of the biggest factory farming counties in the state. There is now an existential struggle to keep factory farming alive because the voters are revolting against it. And you're one of them. Granted, you're a fairly recent Sonoma County voter, but you are a Sonoma County voter. And more importantly, you and I have both talked to the day I got out of jail. I only did it one day, sadly. So I don't get any credit for the ballot initiative. It's totally like Almira, Curtis, Rocky.
Yeah, I'm really upset at you. You were prepping for a trial and then we're in jail for 2 months. You should have really been out there collecting more signatures.
No, but I did collect signatures. Literally the day I got out of jail, I went to collect signatures. And I was shocked. I was there. You were there. I know. But I was shocked to hear from the voters of Sonoma County, which, it's historically a very farms county. It's Michael Pollan writes about it as the breadbasket of California, the
egg basket
center,
and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. The center of big organic in the state of California. And almost everybody I talked to was supporting the ballot initiative. They supported and a lot of people signed. And even the one person, did you hear about, I think I told you about this. There was one person who was against it and got mad about, those animal rights activists, including that dude who was just in jail. That guy should not be doing what he did. No one should go into these factory farms and break into people's businesses. And I was sitting there, I'm still wearing like the clothes I'd been wearing when I got out of jail, like the white shirt and the messed up slacks that I'd been wearing the day I got thrown in jail on the last day of trial. I tell her, oh, that's me. And she was like, oh, no. And we had a good conversation. Even she kind of turned around and said like, okay, I can see your point. Maybe I don't agree with your methods, but I can see your point. So I don't know, just this conversation. If you actually had fully informed voting, if you could actually get everyone's attention and have a real conversation about this, I'd be 100% convinced you'd win.
Oh,
I think you'd win like 80%. The problem is every one of these voters has like dozens of ballots. ballot initiatives, and even I feel like I'm one of the more informed voters in the state of California. I probably spend less than 1 minute on every ballot initiative total, but like total, not even just in the voting process, but my research, my thinking about it. It's like 1 minute because there's dozens of them, and there's dozens of judicial elections and local boards of supervisors and Congress people and senators. You just don't have time to think about all these things.
I will say though that I have spent more time. This is just anecdotally. I have spent more time on researching the ballot initiatives if I see more stuff about them, like either online or out in public, whether it be billboards or yard signs or whatever. Like if I see, whether it's the yes or the no side, if I see a bunch of it, I'm going to go look it up. And I suspect that there's a lot of people like that. And there is going to be a lot of probably more no stuff because that's, costs a lot of money, and which we don't have as much money as the opposition. But there will be a lot of that stuff out there. And I'm hoping that people will, they'll see the no stuff and maybe they'll be like, well, I want to see what the other side has to say. And I think that if they find our stuff or reach out to us, that they'll find it compelling.
Yeah, and this is why we need people on social media, people, writing letters to editor, people joining protests, doing whatever they can to elevate the issue. Because I agree with you, because one of the few ballot initiatives I spent some time thinking about in the most recent electoral cycle was one involving, I think this is in 22. I think it was the one involving Uber. Do you remember this one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Uber.
that was a big deal.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't even known. And again, I'm a lawyer who's extremely well educated. I wouldn't even know what the ballot initiative was about when I read it, if not for the fact that there was media attention. I saw stuff on social media, people were talking about it. Sadly, that Uber ballot initiative is an example of the power of big money to distort the debate. Because even though I knew about it, and even though I'm sure a lot of people knew about it and read this ballot initiative that otherwise would have been pretty unremarkable, because it was basically about whether kind of independent contractors should be listed as employees and therefore get the same benefits, medical, insurance, dental, unemployment that employees get. But even though it was a very hotly contested issue, there was a ton of social media and media around it. Uber won.
Yep.
Because they just misled enough people into thinking.
I can't remember which way I voted on that thing. I can't remember.
See, this is proof of how hard it is.
Yeah.
To convince people of things on ballots. But but I'm still optimistic about at least the communications. And if you win, it's historic. I mean, if you win, it's the first domino in the end of animal agriculture.
Yeah.
That is 100% the case. So it's a huge and difficult battle, but if you win, it's historic consequences for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if we win here, it just shows that it does a few things. One, it would start a domino effect in other locales, not just in California, but in other parts of the country. Maybe some bigger orgs would get behind these things. Cause like right now there's not a ton of support from the larger animal welfare organizations behind this ballot initiative. It's kind of sad, honestly. And I could talk a lot longer about that, but I don't want to piss certain people off. But maybe, even just getting to this point may send a signal to some of these other larger organizations that like, wow, hey, this kind of like ragtag group of people that is, not that well funded, doesn't have a ton of resources, was able to start this huge conversation on a pretty low budget. What if we did it with all of our resources? Maybe we could do a better job. Great. Awesome. I'm glad that we started got the ball rolling here. And awesome. You take and run with it. Cause I don't care who gets this stuff done. I just want it done.
That's the credit. We just want it done.
Let's just get it done. Another thing that this could do is it could make it more salient in Sacramento. A lot of times progressive issues or issues that people see as too radical gain more credibility if there's some local ballot initiative that gets a lot of steam. And even if it doesn't win, 45% of the people vote in favor of it. That sends a signal to legislators that, wow, this is okay. This is an issue. There are a lot of people that care about this. There are a lot of people that want to see movement in this space. maybe a bill isn't such a bad idea now. So that's another positive consequence that could come out of this, even if it isn't a victory.
Yeah. Yeah. 45% is a huge victory just in terms of what that symbolically tells us about the state of the world. Because that says in an agricultural county, 45% of people effectively want to end the meat industry.
Yeah.
They want to end not just factory farming, because the reality is, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say this. And, and this goes to some of the strategic communications issues around the campaign. But, I'm not one of the leaders of the campaign, so I can just say this. The reality is factory farming is animal farming. And you end factory farming, it is the end of animal farming. 99% of animals are factory farmed in this country. 99% of the meat that's being bought and sold in California is factory farms from CAFOs. So you end factory farming, it's the end of animal farming. And the reason I'm saying, there's some strategic debate about whether to talk about this is actually one of the talking points they use against the campaign. They basically say, oh, these people want to end all animal farms. They're trying to take away your meat. And the reality is we're not really trying to take people's meat away. We're trying to just transform it and make it plant-based meat, because we know, you and I know, plant-based meat is healthier, it's better for the environment, it's more ethical than animal-based meat. And it's the same shit, You eat a Beyond Burger, it tastes, granted, I haven't had a real burger in over 20 years, but Beyond Burgers, as far as I could tell, and apparently a lot of meat eaters agree, taste virtually identical to the real burgers. So why can't we just use the system that doesn't kill animals on the planet in the meantime?
Yeah.
Can we actually respond to that? But I actually think we should back up, and I want you to explain why you're concerned about CAFOs in Sonoma County in the first place and how this entire campaign started. But feel free to respond what I just said first. But I do think we should back up and start from the beginning. Why are you concerned about CAFOs in Sonoma County?
Yeah. So I think, before we started the campaign, one thing that we did before we started the campaign in Sonoma County was do kind of like a trial run in Berkeley as kind of like an organizational test, if you will. We wanted to see like how motivated people were to do this, how easy would it be to get signatures, all of that. So in Berkeley, basically a year ago, we were collecting signatures to get a CAFO ban on the ballot in Berkeley. And you might be wondering, like, why Berkeley? There are no CAFOs, there are no factory farms. And there actually is one CAFO in Berkeley, the horse racing track. The stables at Golden Gate Fields actually constitutes or qualifies as a CAFO. And there's been tons of horses that have died there over the years. And there have been some allegations of waste getting into the bay, just a really bad place. And so our measure would effectively shut that place down, or at least make it really hard for them to operate. Like if they don't have the stables there, they wouldn't be able to run their races and do their gambling as easily, right?
Yeah.
So after
that is something like 1,000 or a couple thousand horses, each of whom live in a tiny stall, basically 23 out of 24 hours of a day. They get out for exercise 1 hour of a day. In 23 hours, they're stuck in this dreadful stall. So it's not just a CAFO in name. It actually is a CAFO. When you see it, when you smell it, you and I have both been there. It smells like a CAFO. It is a massive industrial facility. They just happen to be producing horses rather than cows or pigs.
Yep. Yeah. So that happened. And then the question was, we were actually thinking about either Marin or Sonoma County. And they're neighboring counties just north of the East Bay. And we thought that the people in Marin would be nicer, or it would be easier to gather the signatures from, but there's not as many CAFOs. And then we thought the opposite for Sonoma. We thought it might be difficult, or people might be more difficult. It might be harder for us to gather the signatures, but there's more CAFOs there and it would have a larger impact. It turns out that gathering the signatures was actually quite easy. You did it for a day. I was out there quite a bit. We had a lot of people that were out there.
Stop shaming me, Curtis.
Sorry, Wayne. You should have been doing more.
Curtis
you should have been finding a way.
You did it for a day.
You should have been out there, while you were in jail. But
how many days were you out? You were probably out like 100 days.
I don't know exactly how many days, but I know that I collected close to 5,000 signatures for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't remember where I was at or what the question was or where we were going.
We're just talking about how you were gathering signatures in Sonoma County and Marin, and it turned out it was easier in Sonoma County than you expected, which is my experience too. A lot of people were supportive.
Yeah, and so we got the signatures. We turned them in March, and we had like a month and a half grace period while they were verifying them. And since then, it's been door knocking and some phone banking and trying to gather endorsements from various entities. So far,
So I want to stop you though, because I really want to back us up to the basics of what is your complaint against factory farms? Yeah, what is your complaint against factory farms? What is your complaint about CAFOs, and what is a CAFO?
I mean,
so if somebody say I'm some random person in Sonoma County, I walk up to you, or even just like a random person on YouTube who's just seeing this video, and it's like, what's this big deal? I mean, I've heard about factory farming a little bit. Maybe I've seen a couple clips on PETA, but what is like your bullet point list of this is why we're doing this? This is why we got to do this for all of us. And the important thing to me about this campaign, one of the really crucial things about this campaign, is it focuses on how non-vegans and vegans really need to unite. This is not just like some vegan issue where people who happen to love animals or happen to have a particular peculiar diet should support this. You're getting everybody on board. So let's make your case to the world.
Yeah. I mean, so we gathered close to 37,000 signatures. How many of those people were vegan or vegetarian even?
Yeah, probably not many.
Maybe 1,000?
Maybe
That's probably high, right?
Yeah.
But here's why. Here's why. This is why. This is all in the county, by the way. This is all in the county. Yeah, CAFOs are, I mean, the bad things, the negative consequences of CAFOs is well known, well documented. I tell anybody, just Google CAFO and read a little bit. It's horrible things come up. Concentrated animal feeding operations, which are defined and have parameters set by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, are agriculture facilities, animal agriculture facilities that house lots of animals, oftentimes in confinement. And the EPA is most concerned about these things because of the amount of waste that they produce and how that waste is treated and oftentimes untreated and gets into waterways. So CAFOs in Sonoma County are no different, no better than CAFOs in the Central Valley, CAFOs in the Midwest, CAFOs in North Carolina. Granted, there aren't pig CAFOs in Sonoma County, but the CAFOs that exist here look no different than, the egg CAFOs in the Midwest or the chicken CAFOs in South Carolina. The same type of operation, the same problems with waste, the same problems with smell, and the same problems like this, packing animals in extreme confinement. It's cruel. It's most people, like when I was gathering signatures, this is what I would lead with. Yeah, we're trying to get rid of like these types of facilities. Easy, sign it, done. Can
you say more about the water issue too? Because I think this is something that animal rights activists don't actually know as much about, and it actually is a big deal, including in poultry plants. Because poultry plants don't create quite the amount of feces as like a pig farm, so you don't have as many of the huge manure lagoons. But in terms of wastewater plants, both in the processing and the slaughterhouses and in the egg farms, like what is the concern about water specifically?
Well, for one, they use a lot of water, which is not good when you account for the water that's used for the feed, when we could be, using those crops or that cropland to make other food to feed humans. There's a lot of water that's, given to the chickens during production. And the slaughterhouse is using an exorbitant amount of water. I don't remember the figure. And now our ballot initiative would not deal with slaughterhouses directly, but a lot of these animals that come from these places end up going to these slaughterhouses. So it would slow down the production there. I can't remember the figure from that slaughterhouse in the big chicken one, the adjacent county, where your trial was with
Sam
Alexandra.
Oh, 1%.
Yeah, what's that? What's the name of that plant? The Foster Farms plant?
Livingston plant.
Yeah, they use something like 400,000 gallons of water a day or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
it's mind blowing.
yeah, and the whole thing is gross and messed up. So yeah, we're targeting Sonoma County because there's a lot of these facilities, and it's a progressive county, and people care, and we think we have a chance of it to pass.
Yeah, and this is at a time, for those of you who are not in California, this is at a time where in California there have been massive droughts in recent years. And do you know Julianne
Julianne Perry?
Barry? Yeah.
I never met her personally,
Okay.
but
So
I know the name.
yeah, she's an animal rights activist who's done a lot of really badass open rescues, but she's got a tiny little plot of land in San Jose. It's honestly, you can't even call it a yard. It's like a patch of grass. And her water surcharge on an annual basis is like thousands of dollars. On a monthly basis, I think she's paying $300 just in surcharges for a tiny patch of grass that she barely even waters. It's not even a nice lawn. It's like 1/10 of my lawn when I was growing up in Indiana, and it's not even very well watered. And she's paying like $300 because they're adding all these surcharges because we have a water shortage and people don't have enough water to bathe and drink. And instead, and the worst part about it is I haven't looked at the numbers of pet animal poultry and whether they're getting subsidies, but it's not only the amount of water they're using, but they get like tax subsidies that reduce their water costs dramatically. So all of us, you got a single mother trying to raise 5 kids and give them all baths and showers and have a little lawn and a garden in her backyard. And she's paying 10 times, 20 times as much as she should for this water. And at the same time, the factory farm, and again, I don't know the specific about Sonoma County, but I know this is true across the state of California. They're paying like 1/10 the amount. They're getting subsidized. And who's subsidizing that? Us. We are subsidizing it. So it is a huge issue. And water is just one of these issues that, for whatever reason, I think it's kind of been forgotten by the environmental movement because everyone's focused on climate change, which is really important. I'm not saying climate change is important, but even if we have a great climate, guess what? If we don't have water to drink, we're still dead.
Yeah.
We're still dead. And that is like a serious, environmentalists are seriously concerned about droughts getting so bad, it literally causes world wars. There could be world wars caused by drought. And the number one cause of drought is factory farming, 100%.
Yeah, and just another to speak more about water. The EPA has this map on their site that shows you various waterways and watersheds, and basically all of the waterways, the rivers, the streams, the tributaries, in and around Sonoma County is listed as impaired. Meaning that there's a higher level of bacteria and microbes, lower oxygen, sediment, and other buildup in all of these waterways. And, you can't prove 100% that it's all caused from CAFOs or animal farms, but you have to, you have to believe that is a contributor, if not a major contributor to that. So and so that was one of the things that was in the question that the Board of Supervisors removed.
Just removed. They don't want people to know that all these waterways are getting polluted and destroyed by factory farms.
Yep.
That is so disgusting. Honestly, it's just outrageous that because they're supposed to represent the people. And this is not just, the river smells a little funny or it looks a little darker than it used to be. This literally does things like causing cancer. The nitrate pollution from factory farms has been linked to bladder cancer, stomach cancer, and brain tumors. My mom died of a brain tumor in 2015. And maybe part of the reason was all this contamination from factory farms, because we grew up in farm country too. I grew up in Indiana where there were factory farms everywhere. And it's possible all the nitrates, so the fertilizers they use in all these factory farms and to grow all these crops and that they use to sometimes just clean, the feces out. These fertilizers and decontaminants are linked to cancer. So it's literally killing, especially young children, because the young children are going to have accumulated effects of these factory farms over 30, 40 years of their life, right? And if they are exposed to that for 40 years, one of these kids is going to get brain cancer at 40, and unless we stop it now. And it's so evil that they're doing this.
Yeah, and there's well-documented cases of kids, mostly black and brown kids in the Central Valley that live near these dairies that have higher levels of asthma and other breathing issues that live near these things. And so I've lived now in Sonoma County for a few months, and just yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, I was in the kitchen. There's a lot of us. We actually, the kitchen is kind of like our workspace for all of us that are staying there. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's that smell? Like is there somebody leave trash out or something? And it took me a while to figure it out. I ended up like going outside to run to the grocery store like an hour later. And it was just they call it the Sonoma aroma.
Wow.
It's just, I've smelled it before in Santa Rosa. You smell it in Petaluma when they spray the crap on the fields. That stuff can travel a long way.
Right. Yeah.
And in Cotati, in Roanoke Park, other small towns in Sonoma County, when I was gathering signatures in the fall, oftentimes, especially on the hot days, you'd smell that, just the shit in the air.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just come to just live with that and accept it. Like, oh, yeah, that's the Sonoma aroma. It's whatever. And I'm just like, what? Like, this can't be good.
Yeah.
Like, for one, it's just rank, but this can't be good for you to be breathing in on a consistent basis. And just 2 days ago, it was in our house.
Yeah. That's scary.
And people have gotten so conditioned to thinking that this is just normal. Oh, that's good, hardworking American smell. It's like, that's shit.
No, it is.
And it's not healthy.
It's shit. It's disease. It's the various chemicals they're using to treat the shit. It's the chemicals they're often feeding the animals, including, like if you look at the laundry list of weird things that are being fed, even to animals in supposedly organic farms, it's terrifying. It's like a chemistry toolkit. It doesn't feel like a farm. It feels like what it is, a factory, a manufacturing plant. And the amount of feces that's being produced from these chemically altered and genetically engineered and selectively bred animals, and not, for the record, even if birds and factory farms are not genetically engineered in the modern understanding of the term, they're all selectively bred. There's de facto genetic engineering just from the weird selective breeding that's happened over the last few decades to make these animals massively overweight, hormonally imbalanced. So they grow huge hearts, 7 weeks growing to adult size. And it would have taken 40 weeks, 50 years ago, before we genetically engineered, selectively bred these animals. That creates an enormous amount of poop. You cannot grow an animal to 8 pounds in 7 weeks unless you're feeding them a lot of food and they're pooping a lot. And there are far more animals in factory farms in Sonoma County than are human beings. And they're creating an ungodly amount of shit, amount of shit.
So by our estimation,
I actually think people are not used to it, because I've smelled it too. When I drive through it, like you're outside of Riker, that place it smells like death. It smells like,
I was just about to bring that place up. It's 200. The figure that we found is 200,000 gallons of liquid poop every single day from that place.
Jesus.
200,000. Yeah. And the audacity of the board to say that to protect animals and the water is bias and can't be a goal of what we're trying to do.
We have to wipe that out.
What?
Yeah.
How is that not? It's just like common sense. Like, you can explain this to children.
Yeah.
Like, come over there with us. Hey, let's go over there. Let's all take a field trip. Board of supervisors and all of us. Let's go have a fun day over there and learn about this place. Yeah. I don't get it. It just reeks of corruption and fraud.
I agree. And in a lot of ways, I almost think the discussion in Utah around Smithfield, when Smithfield shut down, was more honest than the conversation we're having in Sonoma County now. Because in Utah, at least they admitted this is just about money. They didn't try to pretend it's somehow good for the environment, good for the animals, like the laughable comment. I don't even think we described the comment Linda Hopkins made earlier this week, where she said, you know what happens when you close down factory farms? You have to kill all the animals. All those animals are going to die. That's what's going to happen. It's like, dude, are you out of your mind? They're all being killed anyways. That's literally what the business is. It is an animal slaughterhouse. It is not an animal sanctuary. And apparently she was confused for a moment and she thought CAFOs were animal sanctuaries and she thought we were going to shut them down and the animal's going to die. No, it is a slaughterhouse. Slaughter means killing. And if you're against killing, you should be against slaughterhouse. But it's an example of how dishonest this debate has begun. In Utah, which you were embroiled in that debate.
You're talking about the trial, right?
Well, I'm talking about the entire debate about shutting down Smithfield in Utah. They were honest about it a lot, at least. Well, I mean, they weren't honest in the sense they didn't engage directly with the environmental animal rights arguments for shutting down Circle 4 farms, but they didn't pretend it was for the animals. In Sonoma County, they're saying things like, we need these farms for the animals. We need these farms for the environment and for public health. And it is just an outright lie. In Utah, they said, look, 1/3 of the people in this county work for Smithfield. We're kind of screwed if they shut down. And that was at least honest. That was true. And you could have a debate about that and say, look, I agree. It's not great that all these people are going to lose their jobs. Let's find alternative employment. And this is true. This is a true fact. In Sonoma County, you have board members, seemingly rational adult human beings who have read a second grade biology textbook, who cannot figure out that an animal slaughterhouse slaughters animals. And therefore, if you're against animal slaughter, you should be against animal slaughterhouses. I wish it were stupidity, but it's not. It's what you said. It is corruption. It's not stupidity. It's corruption. And it's disgusting. Well, I say this with all the compassion in the world. I love to talk to these people on an individual level. I'm sure they're wonderful human beings in their capacity as regular human beings. But as politicians, the system is broken and corrupt. And it explains why so many Americans on the left and the right are just fed up with our government. They're fed up with our government.
Yeah. That was something that I wanted to say. I had a short amount of time at public comment, but yeah, people on both sides are like, this is screwed up. And at the national level, I can understand how people feel that way, especially with, these last, I don't want to get too far into it, but
are you saying you're not riding with Biden, Curtis Vollmar?
These last,
how dare you? Debate, how dare you? I am riding with Biden.
The debate. And then yesterday he called the Ukrainian President
Putin.
He called him President Putin, and then he called his Vice President Kamala Harris, called her Vice President.
You're going to get in some trouble, Mr. Vollmar, right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Biden supporters that are going to come after you. Your DMs are going to light up.
Come after me.
Come at me.
And so with that said, I understand why people are disillusioned and are feeling like really shitty about things that are happening at the national level. But I did not think that this kind of like corruption and just games would be being played at the local level.
Party. And at the Democratic Party.
And the Dems, like there's like two Democratic associations or groups in the Sonoma County. There's the the Wine Country Young Democrats, and then the Sonoma County Democratic Party.
Is it literally called the Wine Country Young Democrats?
Yep. And on their website,
you're kidding me. You're kidding me.
Yeah. On their website, it's all like progressive values and clean air and clean water and all of this. And on Tuesday, both groups voted to endorse the other side.
The no on Measure J.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like, how embarrassing.
What were the arguments they relied on? Why, and especially the young Democrats, why did they vote no on Measure J? Did they explain themselves?
No, the young Democrats, they sent out a questionnaire that both sides had to fill out and then submit. And I personally wasn't working on this a whole lot. It was mostly our research team and some other people at comms were on this. But so many hours, tens of hours, maybe hundreds of hours were spent on doing a good job, providing all of these resources and citations for all of these statistics and data that we were providing for them, talking about the animal cruelty, the environmental, the water, the public health, the disease, the bird flu. We haven't even talked about that, which actually impacted Sonoma County in a big way. Mm-hmm. There was a big scare.
In which they lied about as well. They just
Yeah.
lied about what causes bird flu, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But so you give them all this information.
We give them all this information, and then we get, I get a text back from my contact that I had. I don't know if I still am, cool with this person to contact them and chat about it, but I'd hope that they're open to talking to me about this. But yeah, they just send us a text back saying, "Hey, we're not going to be supporting this. We're supporting the no on J side."
And they didn't explain anything?
Nope. I mean, they don't have to.
No.
Why would they?
Yeah.
And what's their explanation?
Well, maybe they should explain themselves because we live in a democracy.
They don't need to.
And people's votes and perspectives actually supposedly matter in a democracy rather than just some massive corporation that is probably buying you off.
Right. And so
they should have an open public debate. I would love to debate anybody about this issue. I mean, any of us could debate anyone on this issue. But there is no one who can stand up to the animal rights perspective in a debate about factory farming. No one. I don't care. And this is one of the reasons I became an animal rights activist, because I thought I was a pretty smart guy. Did you know this about me? But my dad's a vivisector, and early on, I was kind of like trying to argue.
I think I remember you telling
rights.
me about that about your dad.
Yeah. And I realized I'm a pretty smart guy, and I feel like I'm a pretty good debater. And some reason I lose every single argument about this very badly. So even a bad debater arguing for animal rights wins against the world's best debater. You can be the smartest guy in the world trying to defend factory farming. You will lose. And the only way they can win is to shut down the conversation entirely. And that's distressing that even the young Democrats, I mean, it makes sense to me because if they're the young wine Democrats, then they're privileged. Honestly, they just sound like silver spoon assholes who don't care and are hanging out to drink wine together and secure power for themselves. That's not fair to them, and I'm probably being mean, but that's the way I hear wine country young Democrats.
If that's all I heard, I would probably feel, be inclined to feel the same way. But I've met quite a few of them, and they seem like nice people. And
so why don't they give you a goddamn answer?
Well, we haven't.
Why
we haven't really done a
debrief
with them yet, and my sense is that they're not going to be open to it. Again, they don't have to be, and why would they be? And what's for them to gain from that?
Protest.
We're going to be having a longer discussion internally about what do we do now, potentially shifting tactics a little bit. We've been spending a lot of time trying to gather coalitional support, endorsements from people like the Democratic Party and other various groups. And now that we lost like two of the biggest ones, is it worth our time to do that? Should we just abandon that aspect of the campaign altogether? Especially, I'm unsure. I don't know. Like, we've never done this before,
I think you should, because even if the institutions as a whole are corrupt and broken, they're going to be individuals in those institutions that are good. And forming those relationships with those individuals can, even if you decide to take like a direct action campaign against the Democratic Party, having those turncoats within the institutions you're developing relationships with is going to be super valuable. Because say you protest the Young Dems, but you've got some people inside that organization who are saying these people are right. What we're doing is corrupt. That is going to cause huge problems. It's just like us. The biggest problems for us are when we fight with each other, right? It's like, it's never when the industry comes after us. It's like kind of good. It's like, oh yeah, come after us.
I know that we have at least 2, maybe 3 people within like the Young Democrats that, are wholeheartedly in support of what we're doing.
That's awesome.
And are probably torn up about this most recent,
good for
thing
them.
that transpired. Yeah.
Good for them, and good for you for forming that relationship.
Yeah. And then same thing with the Democratic Party.
So did the Democratic Party give a response or give an explanation? You said the Young Dems just said we're not supporting this. So neither of them did.
Neither of them did. And
it's so frustrating.
The meeting on Tuesday was on Zoom, and we had 15 minutes to present, then the opposition presented, and then there was like a 5-minute rebuttal for each side. So there was like a mini debate that happened on Zoom. And then the Democratic Party, they voted right there in front of everybody.
Really?
And it was, and it was really like not good. It was like 3 votes in our favor to like 30 or something.
That tells me there was a lot of behind the scenes shenanigans before the vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was almost like, why are we doing this?
You cannot look at the polling data anywhere in the country and see numbers like that. Most people are vastly against factory farming.
Nope. And even the polls that we did, where we heavily skewed things in the opposition's favor, it was, it was like 60% us and 40% them.
So why do you think? Actually, let me ask you one question. Who spoke on behalf of the industry at this debate or this discussion?
It was so the industry. Bureau? No, it wasn't the Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau had the first time they presented a couple times to the Democrats. A couple months ago or so, a month ago, they did, and it was the Farm Bureau. It's the president or executive director. Her name's Dana Ghirardelli. She presented at that one, but the one that happened on Tuesday was Tresh, Lydia. I think her name's Lydia Tresh. She owns a farm that supplies to Strauss.
Yep.
And then who was the other guy? I think it was Albert Strauss. Yeah, so they were both affiliated with Strauss. And so I guess let me back up a little bit. The opposition has their entire campaign now is basically them talking about dairies, like shutting down dairies, and the dairy people have been like their public image people for all of this. So there are roughly 21 CAFOs in the county. 6 of those are dairies, and 3 of them are actually pasture-based dairies. So they're not in the traditional sense, like if you just saw the cows in the field, you wouldn't think, oh, that's a factory farm. But they still have over 700 cows, and they all get corralled into a milking barn, and they're all crapping a crap ton, and they have a huge manure lagoon. So it is an environmental risk there. But back to the presentation that happened on Tuesday night, we had this really nice slideshow. We had all of the talking points. We gave all of the facts, all of the statistics. We showed the images from inside of the facilities. We had a great presentation. And then they had nothing. They just rambled. Each of them rambled for like 5 minutes about, I don't even remember. It was like it was so unmemorable. Yeah. And it
was fixed. So it was fixed. The debate and the vote was fixed.
It had to have been.
It had to be. Yeah.
It had to have been. They knew what way they were going beforehand. Nobody's mind was changed during that whole thing.
Who spoke on our behalf?
We had John Frohnmeyer, who you know.
Of course. Yeah, John's extremely eloquent. He's an amazing prisoner.
Yeah, environmental attorney. And then we had Christina Garfinkel, who's been kind of the face of our campaign. She's a longtime Santa Rosa resident.
Actually, her text message reminded me.
Yeah, very, very well spoken. Knows the ins and outs of all of this. And then we had a couple people on standby, really, for rebuttal. We had a local economist named John Haveman, who talked a little bit when, during that rebuttal time when they were asking questions about money and all of that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was like when I saw everybody vote, I was just like, wow. Yeah. Why would we even do this? Like, what's the point of this?
These dictatorships. If you read about dictatorships like Soviet Union or communist China, where 95% of the votes come in from one side, even though clearly no one actually likes the side that won, and there's that there's no actual democracy happening here, and that's what it reminds me of. These weird elections around the world where just one side doesn't even have to make an effort. They still somehow win by 95%. I think Putin's most recent election was something like that. What percentage did he win? Yeah, of votes that Putin won.
Yeah.
He won 87.8% of the vote. So if they got 3 votes out of 30, or if you got 3 votes out of 30, this election was worse than Russia's election most recently, where they elected
Maybe
a
it was like
dictator to
3 to
become.
25 or so. I don't remember exactly
But it
what it
was
was.
bad.
I was just like so dumbfounded.
So what's your
And
explanation? What do you think it was? Do you think there was just behind the scenes corporate lobbying? Do you think it was donations? What do you have a sense of why all these people are voting in this inexplicable way? And who are these people who are voting actually?
so they're people, they're voting members on the part of the Sonoma County Democratic
County
Party,
Badger
part
reported.
of
Yeah.
their full central committee,
Yeah.
and they, yeah, I mean, we can't prove any of this, and
Yeah.
I don't want to make like wild accusations, but I would not be surprised if, they got some donations from ag industry, farm industry lobby group, and it's just weird. You have this progressive, left-leaning Democratic Party siding with a right-wing special interest group.
Yeah. What a lot of Americans, including Democrats, do not understand is our political system and democracy are controlled by the wealthy elite. It's just 100% the case. I've been in politics for a long time now. I've done it at the local level, the state level, the federal level, and at every level of politics, the people who become involved in politics, the people who run our democracy, are not representing the people, they're representing corporations. It just is true. And that's as true of the Democratic Party as the Republican Party. I'm sorry for folks who are riding with Biden, but to me, it's just the evidence is overwhelming. There was a study done in Vox a couple of years ago by some Princeton economists showing that Democrat or Republican states, if you look at kind of the policies that are enacted, it is highly correlated with the views of the 1%, the wealthiest people in a county, a state, or even the nation, and not correlated at all with the median voter. The average person had no impact on policy at all. And when the wealthy
I
1%
remember seeing
changed their
that.
minds,
God,
it's like a
it's like
terrifying
so
graph.
sad.
This graph, it's just you see a one-to-one correspondence between what wealthy people want and what happens, and zero correspondence between the average person. And again, this is true of Democrats and Republicans. This is why I say, we're both going to get in trouble now. I agree that Trump is a threat to democracy. I think the Democratic Party has been a threat to democracy too, though. It's not just Trump. Biden, okay, I'm going there. Biden is a threat to democracy too. He tried to overturn the will of 7.5 million California voters and strike down Prop 12, which is not much. Prop 12 was just a ballot initiative that 7.5 million California voters supported and said, we do not want mother pigs crammed in cages where they live in a coffin their entire life. They should be able to step 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, at least a couple times. It didn't give them a lot of space. It gave them 24 square feet of space. And who comes in to try and overturn the will of 7.5 million California voters? Not Trump, but Biden. And yeah, again, it's going to be controversial. I'm sure people are going to be pissed at me saying this. That was Biden who said, and you know what? Did you read the brief? What they said in that brief, and this is the head Democrat in the entire country. They said California has no legitimate state interest in stopping animal cruelty. Now ask yourself, do you think the state has a legitimate interest in stopping animal cruelty? Do you think if someone's kicking a dog in the face, the state should be able to intervene, that we should be able to intervene?
Well, Wayne, a dog, that's different than chickens. These chickens, they're just dumb animals. They're just a hive mind,
Yeah.
Cows, that's different, Wayne. Come on.
That's literally what Mike Weber said to me on May 29, 2018, when he walked me into the farm. He said, come on, chickens? As if they were just pieces of garbage, And it was weird because he actually distinguished between even chickens and crows. He said, crows I could see, but chickens, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is still a living being who is sentient. And even if you were only concerned about intelligence, in a lot of ways, chickens are smarter than we are. Some of the studies have been done recently. Did you hear about this study where the rooster basically is able to communicate different signals and would warn all the other chickens around him about a hawk coming by, and even at risk to himself? Like the roosters would frequently make this big call. So normally when a hawk goes by, all the chickens hide because it's scary. There's a hawk, you could get eaten, So you run away, you don't make any noise at all. But roosters, when they saw a hawk go by and they saw there were other chickens around, they would make a huge fuss and make this cry and notify everyone, you've all got to run, at great risk to themselves. And the average rooster does this. and we say they're stupid and we're smart, that rooster is brave and smart in a way that most human beings are not. I wish I was as smart and brave as that rooster. And that is just the average rooster you pull off the street. That's not some extraordinarily brave rooster. They did this experiment and said, like, wow, these roosters are really smart. They're sophisticated in that they know how to communicate, and they communicate effectively when there's a danger at great risk themselves. How many human beings do that? Do you think Biden would do that? Do you think Trump would do that? Do you think any of our elected leaders would do that? Or do you think they're going to take the money and run?
You said that you were worried about getting in trouble. I don't think you are. I think that a lot of people are seeing what's happening at the national stage and are like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. And I'll say that we deserve whatever bad thing ends up happening to us, honestly.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad though. I think in the same way, I think even if the election result in Sonoma County is quote unquote bad in the sense we lose. So even if Trump wins or even if Biden drops out at the last minute or whatever you think, whatever worst case scenario it is, the key thing is we are still making progress merely by bringing attention to the issue.
Absolutely.
The system was already broken. Regardless of whether the ballot initiative wins or loses, the system was broken in Sonoma County. And similarly at the national level, the system was broken regardless of who wins in November. It was broken before, it'll be broken afterwards. And the fact that we're having these conversations about, are these the right people to be leading the free world? Is this the right party to guide our food system towards a more ethical and sustainable future? These conversations are important because I can say someone had been in the animal rights movement 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we weren't even having these conversations. The idea of even having a ballot initiative, that would have been laughed out of the room. And now we're having real conversations, and we just have to drive forward and make more of them happen. More of these conversations have to happen.
Yeah, and I think that this ballot initiative or ballot initiatives in general are a great way to make these conversations happen and make this a political issue. I mean, we've officially made CAFOs a political issue. Like, so yesterday I was at the coffee shop, and actually Katya, my girlfriend, and I, we were there, and we were doing these. This was actually her idea. She brought to the press team to do these like mini surveys, conduct these mini interviews with people at coffee shops, and it's like, hey, we're doing this survey. We're trying to get some feedback on a design. Come have a conversation with us. It'll take 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll give you a $5 gift card as a thank you. And pretty much everybody said, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. But there was one guy that was like, no, I don't want to. I'm burned out of politics. And even though he said no, I was like, this is politics. Like, we've made this a political issue. Like, people are talking about CAFOs, about factory farms. It's on the ballot. This is a big issue, and we made it an issue.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't that hard.
It wasn't
that difficult. Collecting the signatures wasn't. Now, some people, didn't like standing outside of the grocery stores or going to the farmer's market and doing that. They weren't like super personable people. But if you have, a good core of people, like you can get it done.
You call me out again, Curtis? Did you just call me not a personal person?
Yeah.
I spent one day gathering signatures.
Not a personal person. Okay. No. You should have tanked your trial more than you did.
Yeah, and just spent more time gathering fake signatures.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I hope that other communities, not just animal rights, but any sort of progressive issue.
We got to take democracy in our own hands.
Yeah, these ballot initiatives are a great way. And I would not be surprised if efforts are made in the future to get rid of ballot initiatives.
They probably will. And then we have
to
find
whether it be right or left, whether Biden or Trump or some other Democrat wins, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to take this away.
All right, you want to get a little wacky? I'm going to go a little wacky. I think our entire constitutional system is on the brink of possibly being transformed. I think government as it exists today, 20 years from now, we might think, wow, can you believe back then they had these weird systems like representative democracy and this voting system where you had all these random ballot initiatives and all these random names that no one even knew what the hell was going on. And you had these massive national elections. It might not be 20 years. Maybe it's 40 years. But I think
it'll just be way worse.
No, I think it's going to be way better.
Oh,
I think it's going to be so
way
much better. I think we're on the cusp of some sort of political transformation. I don't want to use revolution because everyone's going to say I'm violent and I'm trying to overthrow the United States of America if I say this. And it's not just me. Noah Smith, who is a Bloomberg columnist, or actually, I don't think he's at Bloomberg anymore, but he's an econ PhD from the University of Michigan, really smart guy, one of the top economic and political commentators in the nation. When I've had him on my podcast, he said the same thing. He said, we are basically at a breaking moment in Western civilization and modern democracy, where so many people are realizing the systems that we live in aren't functioning for us, for the animals, for anyone, for the future of life on this earth. And they're rethinking the most basic assumptions. And even just the idea that the way we should govern ourselves is for all of us to go to the ballot once every 4 years and vote on two names, neither of which we know or like at all, and a number of other names that we don't even recognize. Even if we do like or know them, we might have read for 15 seconds about some judge or some elected official who's going to make decisions that direct the future of our community, right? These are really important decisions that none of us know anything about. The idea that we should make decisions this way, I think, will be discarded by history. So I think we're on the cusp of a turning point in human history, potentially. Because it's not just in the United States. You're seeing a collapse in trust. You see what happened in France recently with the wild
big deal in France.
There. Yeah. Or these wars that are erupting in Ukraine. I mean, there is something that's happening to the human condition where so many people are realizing the fix is in. They're realizing what you realized, because I reached the same realization you reached when you went to the Sonoma County Democratic Party gathering and you saw yourselves giving this extremely intelligent, science-based, evidence-based argument against factory farms. The other side is just babbling, and somehow they win, and they win overwhelmingly in some fixed election. I saw the same thing in the foie gras ban in Chicago in 2006. And I was and still am. I'm still a great believer in a lot of the principles of American democracy. It's not the principles, the idea of freedom of speech, the idea of power by the people, the rule of law. These are all good ideas. But I saw myself when foie gras was passed in Chicago in 2006, 49-1 in favor in the first vote. And then it was overturned 36-6 against because of one lobbyist that was hired by the Illinois Restaurant Association. They hired the former chief of staff of Mayor Richard Daley, who was the kingpin in politics in Chicago.
Wait, so you're telling me that the same people that voted 49-1 then voted
in favor, voted 36-6 against, because the Illinois Restaurant Association hired one lobbyist who went to all the legislators and basically intimidated them, persuaded them. And honestly, it didn't even take intimidation. She was just so influential that they're all party hacks. And our political system is controlled by hacks. It totally is. I mean, you've met a lot of them because you've been involved in politics for the last 4 years. And even the best elected officials are kind of hacks. That's just the reality of the situation we're living in. And no one can possibly think rule by hacks is a good system of governance. It isn't. We don't want to be ruled by hacks. We want to be ruled by, at a minimum, and by hacks, I don't mean just hacks in terms of their competence. I mean in terms of their integrity. They're not honest. They do not say what they actually think, and they do not do things that are actually in the interest of the community.
I think one of the things that disappointed me the most over the last, since I've been in California, since I've been working full time in this space, was with that bill in Sacramento that we got introduced, the AB 2764. Yeah, the moratorium. It was AB 2764, for those who may be listening, was a bill in the California State Assembly to put a moratorium on CAFOs and slaughterhouses. They ended up removing the slaughterhouses portion of it. So it would have been a moratorium on CAFOs. This was 2021, 2022. The bill, I was told, was supposed to have a vote in its first committee hearing, which was the Assembly Ag Committee. And just like days before that vote was supposed to take place, I was told that, they're not going to vote on it. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Like they can just they can just do that? I was like, okay. Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, what's the explanation? Oh, you're not going to get that. What do you mean? Like, well, they don't need to tell you. Like,
yeah,
just gone.
Just gone.
And then so I go to my the office that I've been working with, and they're like, yeah, we're not really at liberty to say. So yeah. And so then I go to the chair of the agriculture committee. It's like, yeah, I was working on AB 2764. I'd really like to know like what happened with that or why it didn't go to a vote. Just just blow smoke up my ass. Don't really tell me anything. And I never got a clear answer. Now we know that the agriculture lobby probably had their hand in it, but we can't say for sure or exactly know what happened. But
because they're smart enough not to leave a paper trail. They figured it out.
yeah.
Don't send emails. Don't send letters. They make phone calls. It's messed up.
Yep. So that was kind of my mindset about a lot of this shifted quite a bit from then on. And while that was really disappointing, what happened Tuesday night with the Dems, and it was like shocking in the moment. The next day I woke up and I was like, why? I'm not surprised.
Yeah, this is
Really
the way the system works.
Yeah.
You're only surprised if you actually think we're living in a democracy, which I'm not saying that we're not better than a lot of countries. So I'm not one of those people who says like, oh my God, if only we were like Russia or China. I mean, I've been to China. I've been in a Chinese jail too. It's not nice in a Chinese jail either. But we are falling so far short of our stated values. It is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. And the only way these powerful figures have gotten away with it is because they make people too busy, too stressed, too poor to pay attention. Because if you're stressed, you're busy, you're poor, you can't pay attention to the fact that your politicians and your elected leaders are all hacks. They're all hacks.
I mean, how many
and I
people
don't mean
are
that as
living-
an insult. That is just a factual description of who they are, right? Because what is a hack? A hack is someone who doesn't know what they're doing and is not there to do things competently. They're just there because it's just somebody's friend, or because some corporation decided I want you in position, or because they bribe themselves in the position. These are not people who are actually trying to accomplish the things they state they're trying to accomplish. They're not people who are there to serve the interests of the people who they're constitutionally obligated to serve. They're there to serve the interest of the few against the many.
Yeah, I was at it felt weird being there. This dinner or slash like it was a campaign fundraiser for Damon Connolly, representative of Marin and part of Petaluma state level, and it just felt so fake being there at this thing. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the point of this? Everyone's just gonna fake smile at each other and say niceties, and then we're gonna go home. And felt like we're changing things in any sort of demonstrable way.
Yeah.
Like, no. Why don't we organize and do a march or protest something? Or like this isn't the way to get things done.
Yeah. Or even just be honest with each other. When you go to these fundraisers, it's a bunch of performances. It's like some weird dance, and it's not a very good dance. It's like a cringy dance. It's embarrassing to watch. It's like if people don't know how to dance properly. It's super embarrassing. I've been to these fundraisers too, and there's this weird political class of people who enjoy that shit too. It's like some sort of like terrible cosplay. Just kind of, how there are these Star Wars nerds.
I would rather go to a Star Wars cosplay and dress up as Jango Fett.
Yeah. I think I would too, because at least people aren't dying. Animals aren't being hurt.
People are being authentic.
They're being authentic in
people
their
are being
fakery.
authentic at cosplay things.
They're being authentic in their fakery. While the fakery in political fundraisers is not. They don't admit they're faking things. They don't admit they're cosplaying. Democracy.
Speaking of which, there's a so one of the nicest local game stores for like Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh is in Santa Rosa. Yeah.
It's
huge store in Santa Rosa.
And they support the Ballot Initiative. Tell me, please.
No, it has nothing to do with the Ballot Initiative.
I had my hopes so high.
Yeah, you had your hopes high. But they have this
even with you as a customer?
Yeah, I guess I haven't spent enough money there yet. But they have this kind of like mini Comic-Con thing there happening in end of August or early September.
I'm in.
But I'm sure there's going to be some people dressed up as maybe not Star Wars, but maybe some Pokemon characters or
Are
whatnot.
you competing? So for those of you who don't know, Curtis Vollmar is a renowned Magic the Gathering champion. You wouldn't think it because he looks like a bro, and he's kind of a bro, but he also plays
Why am I
nerdy
a bro?
Magic. You're totally a bro, dude. You're a bro.
Uh,
You were like a
so
Division I athlete. You ran like what, a 4-minute? What's your best mile? I don't even remember. It's some
406.
406 mile. Curtis is a bro.
I'm a bro because I ran fast 15 years ago, apparently. But
if you run fast enough, you're a bro.
Yeah, that's cool. Whatever you want to call me.
All right. So end of August, Magic Gathering.
And
let's get some animal rights activists.
I'm definitely not a champion, although there is. We have a guy in the animal rights community. His name is Craig Wesco. Shout out Craig Wesco, who actually won a Magic Pro Tour event. He came to the Animal Liberation Conference a couple of years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You should invite him to this event in Sonoma County so he can bring some attention. Because, I mean, one of the things about social movement organizing is you really do have to find these identities and like organize within them. Because if you're a white dude coming in the Chinese community, it's just not going to work. First of all, everyone's going to be speaking Chinese. You don't speak a word of Chinese. Secondly, even if you did speak Chinese, they're just going to immediately have some distance. They're not going to trust you. And it's the same with every community. We need people in Magic the Gathering to work on other Magic the Gathering folks. We need people in the Chinese community to work on other Chinese people. We need people who are white bros to work on the white bros of Sonoma County. So, get to work, Curtis.
I think that
You're in a running club, right? Are you in a running club in
Sonoma
County?
I was just about to talk about that. I think that one of the things that we've not done a good job of, at least here in the East Bay, within our own community, is getting outside of our community and doing other things and making other friends. I've made a big deal out of Monday nights and Thursday nights is my running club with my team, and I'm with them, and my phone is off, and I'm doing that, and I've gotten a few people to come and gotten them plugged into the animal rights community. But like that wasn't my intent going into it.
It was just natural. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just a natural
you just
thing.
genuinely like running,
Yeah.
which is
And
I would like running too if I were as fast as you. For the record, I've gone running with Curtis, and it's a painful, awful experience if you're not Curtis Vollmar.
The team here in the club that I run with, that's based in the East Bay, all skill ranges. Just so you know, it's not just.
So you say, and then you go running with you, and you die afterwards.
Well, don't run with me. There's other people there. There's other people there.
Fair enough. And I guess Katya runs with you, right? And she's definitely really fast for a woman, but I'm faster than her. So
there's people.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. I am faster than her though.
No,
for the record, Katya, it's on. Let's go. Let's go. I can't be Curtis, but I think I can be you.
The point.
For the record, she hasn't. I don't think she's been running for like 30 years the way you have. Maybe so.
No, she did get into it through me, and she'll say that I was an influencer on her in that way, and I think it was a good thing.
Actually, I might not be faster than her now because I beat her at the 5K, but I don't know if she's gotten a lot faster since then. So
maybe not. She's just running more miles, but I don't think she's like she's running a 5K or a mile quicker than she would then. She's just more endurance. But the point I was trying to make is that I think that people need to find other things to do that make 100%. Them happy. And that's like this, this weird balance in our head as activists. Like we think that we need to be on all the time. And like, yes, we should never like compromise our values at any time. But I do think that it's good for us to have other things that we're doing that make us happy. And I know a lot of people very close to me that don't have that don't do any of that. And like their entire world and their entire identity and their entire community is all animal rights people and that also do all this stuff 100% of the time. And I think it would make a lot of sense for people to find other things to do that make them happy. And it would make them more impactful when they are doing the animal rights work.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you so much. And this is a mistake I made, so guilty as charged. I gave up pretty much all my interest. I did have a lot of secondary interest before we started DxE, but partly just DxE was so time consuming. There was so much, sometimes just utter absurdity unfolding that, especially when you're running the show. So like Elmira Tanner is the one person who gets a pass on this, in my view, because it's just hard to run everything. And Elmira, God bless her. She's a champ. She's amazing. but it's just really, really hard to be the leader and manage everything. But for the rest of us, no excuses. We should be doing other things. And the reality is,
even Elmira does. I think
she does do other
she gets
things.
out more than
she goes to see
you did. She goes to shows. She goes to shows every here and now, and she goes on trips.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to do other things now too. I mean, I play Magic with you every now and then, although it's mostly for other vegans. But I'm a member of the U congregation in San Francisco, which is amazing. I really enjoy it. And I think the part of that is really important is it has to be something you just genuinely enjoy. Don't do it for transactional reasons. If you're doing it just to get people involved in animal rights or veganism, it's not going to work. You've got to just genuinely love it. And there are a lot of things I love that I gave up on. I used to play Ultimate Frisbee every single week. I used to play it multiple times a week. I used to go karaokeing. Did you know I went karaokeing almost every night for like 3 years in Chicago? Every night.
I knew that you liked karaoke. I didn't know that you were
love karaoke.
I love karaoke every night.
Yeah, just start playing some Beatles and you'll hear me sing. And it's going to be embarrassing and cringy and everyone's going to leave. But I will
know that Radiohead Creep is your song.
Radiohead Creep is my song too.
And you know that Radiohead Creep is your song.
Did I ever tell you the story about this point you're making about how even if you're trying to promote one thing, it's important to have like a balanced life and how that applies to development economics? There's this weird story in development economics about this. So development economics is sort of this radical version of economics. It's all about helping poor people, which, most economists through most of American history were all about helping rich people. So why would you care about things like poverty in Africa? It was a weird field that didn't exist 30 years ago. And there were a bunch of young economists who said, hey, we got to change economics. We got to start caring about poor people, and not just the rich people who want to make money in the United States and New York City and San Francisco and Los Angeles. How do we do this? And it turns out one of the ways they did this was through rock climbing. And let me explain. So there are a bunch of development economists. They're very young, and they don't have as many of the connections to the older, more established economists. But they were just a couple of the key ones, like Esther Duflo, I think at MIT was one of them, were really interested in rock climbing at a time when rock climbing was ascending. And it was just like the late 90s, early 2000s, rock climbing was just a separate community, but it was rising in significance. And people from all walks of life were joining rock climbing. And there was this weird intersection where a lot of the development economists just said, hey, let's all go rock climbing together. And they all went rock climbing together and start to get to know all the rock climbing people. And as the rock climbing people became growing in significance, and as it became like a bigger national community and movement, it actually gave more attention to development economics, because it just turned out there are all these development economics people who are also rock climbers. And so both of these ships sort of rose together as a result. Yeah. And you might have thought, if you're Esther Duflo, who won a Nobel Prize in economics 20 years later, and she's a young economist at MIT, you're trying to make this big thing happen in economics. Why are you wasting your time with rock climbing? I'm actually not 100% sure Esther herself is a rock climber, but I know a lot of the people in this field were rock climbers because I was there. I was a grad student. I didn't go rock climbing, and I probably should have. Maybe I would have stayed in development economics if I had. But there were all these people who probably were thinking to themselves, where are all these like super motivated economics people going rock climbing? And it ended up being one of the best things they did, because it created these overlapping social networks that strengthened both of them. And that, so what you're saying about like Magic the Gathering, I think one of the most effective things you do is like just organize people play Magic together. Go running together with your running crew. Because I met some of the people from your running club, and they're cool people. And these are people who are genuinely changing because you are genuinely a runner. You're an elite athlete who ran at the Division I level. You're genuinely interested in running, and they have a connection to you. So they trust you when you talk about factory farming. They say, oh, wow, I know Curtis. Curtis is a good dude.
And like, they may not like come out to a protest or ever get like super plugged in. That may never happen, but you don't know like what they're thinking now. They might be changing their habits in other ways. They might be having these conversations in other ways. And, you can't it's hard to quantify that. But it's all moving the needle in the right direction. And it does help if the activity that you're doing isn't super expensive, because that puts a barrier on it too. You want to have a good, running is a great one because, it doesn't, all you need is a pair of shoes, obviously shoes can be expensive, but it's not ice hockey or,
until you spend thousands of dollars on plantar fasciitis that erupted because you've been running too much. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It's actually not that bad. I did have plantar fasciitis, but it actually got a lot better.
Magic is more expensive than running.
Yeah, I believe it. So what do the running people think about your animal rights activism? Do they all know about it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them know about it, and they're very intrigued by it just because it's something that they don't typically come across or whatever. And normally we end up talking a lot about it, and I don't try to like bring it up or really push it. And they normally want to know what's going on because they see this, my stories on Instagram, or they see that and they're like, dude, what's happening? Or like, I saw what's going on, and they're generally intrigued. So it leads to some good dialogue and good discussion.
Yeah.
In that area.
The same thing happened to me both at the Unitarian Church, because I've become a Unitarian church member. Became a church member 2 years ago. And it's just this great, just kind-hearted community. Almost everyone I've met is over the age of 60, but they're just amazing, incredible people who care about the world. And I have not intentionally talked about animals a single time. And everybody, I don't even know how they know, because I don't think these folks are on Instagram, but they all know about me. I think you were maybe in court. Were you in court in sentencing when a minister and a bunch of church members came to my sentencing?
Yeah. And then there was a lot of them when you got out too at the event that you had. I remember there.
No, for sure. Yeah. And so just almost by osmosis, because they see you're genuinely committed to their community and their values. And the idea behind Unitarianism is just the world is going to become a better place if we center love. Everything just has to be based on love. And I think that's such a powerful message. I don't know how you feel about that. You don't strike me as the most lovey-dovey person, but I love you, Curtis. Even if you don't love me, I love you, Curtis. You could say it, Curtis. You could admit you love me too.
I would say, yes.
Admit
Wayne,
you love me, Curtis.
I love you, dude.
Oh, Curtis said he loved me. I win.
I would say that I would maybe replace love with respect, and then I would maybe feel
more comfortable,
better about it. Just because, I do feel like love is like a lovey-dovey thing, and it might be hard.
Well, also,
to
love is getting kind of dangerous in the world of Me Too. When you say you love somebody, it's kind of dangerous nowadays, which is sad. I wish you could just say, I love everybody. I love you. But but the other community this has been true of is Orange Theory. I think, this is, most of my running now happens on a
boy, Orange Theory, oh boy.
It happens on a nice, comfortable treadmill because I'm too weak to run on concrete or frankly, even on a track. And it's just easy to run on these super nice treadmills. And this is the one thing, I'm super cheap. I live on the floor of a living room. I have no expenses. The one thing I spend money on is the gym. And there are so many people in Orange Theory who've been following me on Instagram, who've commented, who've gone vegan even, and said, like, wow, I had no idea these things were happening. And it's just because, they see posts on the Orange Theory. This is actually a company. They post about me.
Oh, yeah, they post your stuff on there. They post your social handles.
No, they post my social handles because they're trying to promote it and they want your friends to come to Orange Theory.
That's why you're going to Orange Theory.
And then the Orange Theory people hear about
self-promotion, Wayne.
Exactly. Trying to get the Orange Theory. There's a surprising number of vegans now in Orange Theory. Like we have like a little vegan crew at Orange Theory, and it's growing. And it's exactly what you said. I have this other interest, which honestly, it's not even that much of an interest, but it's been cool. And I have met like legit awesome people that I really, really like and respect. Yeah. Okay, we didn't talk about public health, so I just want to make sure we talk about public health. We
got sidetracked by other interests.
So tell us about the public health concerns about factory farming in Sonoma County.
Yeah, it's again, explain this to children. Hey, when you pack a bunch of animals in like this, it's really easy for diseases to flourish and spread, and that's pretty much the extent of it. Right. I mean, we could dive more into it. But the CDC has come out and said that roughly 3 out of 4 new and emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic, meaning they pass between human and non-human animals. And these last few years, we've seen the rise of bird flu, H5N1, highly pathogenic avian influenza, they call it HPAI, has been ripping across the various parts of the world. It's hit the USA and it's hit Sonoma County specifically within the last few years. And these facilities, again, these are incubators for disease in that way. This bird flu has now jumped to other species, including cows and other
dairy.
Other sea animals. And it hasn't made like a significant jump to humans, as you're probably aware. But when it does, it has roughly a 50% mortality rate.
Right, yeah. And
if we got some new strain of bird flu that more effectively jumps to humans, like, holy shit, like that is end times. We thought COVID was bad. Like that is Last of Us type of stuff, you know? Like,
Yeah, COVID's case fatality rate is what, less than 1%. H5N1, the case fatality rate so far is, like, as you said, 50%.
yeah,
Imagine COVID times 50, and you've got
that's Thanos.
H5N1.
That's
Thanos. That is
Thanos
actually literally
snapping his
Thanos.
fingers.
If Thanos, tell people who Thanos is. I mean, if you don't watch the Avengers, which if
Yeah.
you don't watch the Avengers, what's wrong with you? Come on now. Come
I
on,
mean,
admit it. You
honestly,
want to watch the superhero movies.
I'm not a big
Don't pretend you
fan
don't
of
watch
the
them.
Marvel
Really?
movies, honestly, but I know who Thanos is and I've seen
course.
the movies.
Yeah. I mean,
But
Infinity War and Endgame were decent. A lot of the other Marvel movies suck, but Infinity War, especially the first of the two, was really good.
yeah,
Endgame dragged on a little bit, but the second half of Endgame was really good. I did fall asleep in the first half because it's just all this buildup. It's like all these superheroes having conversations. Who watches a superhero movie to watch them talk to each other? It's just an hour and a half of them talking to each other. It's so boring. But the second half is cool. Lots of CGI, lots of fighting, lots of explosions. So it's good.
I take Ricky Gervais' take on these movies. He says they're like theme parks. They're like theme parks. These movies.
I don't think we actually properly explained Thanos's
thing. Thanos is
what Thanos is trying to do.
He's trying to like bring harmony to the universe by destroying half of all life in the universe to kind of reset things, if you will. And he's got to get these 5 stones of power, and he snaps his finger, and he can just.
And everybody dies.
Half of everybody is gone. And yeah, that's why I said it would be like Thanos if this bird flu made a more significant jump to humans. And yeah, I just feel like we're, and that's just one aspect of public health. You know, we already talked a little bit about the Sonoma aroma and people having higher rates of asthma and other respiratory issues in Central Valley, living near these dairies, and it's the same in other places where people live really in close proximity to these places. So, yeah, this whole thing it's an animal rights issue, it's an environmental issue, it's a water issue, whether you're talking about water pollution or water use, and it's also a public health issue from the diseases that are coming in and out of these places and the other externalities that are causing diseases in that way. So I don't know what it's going to take.
Did you hear about all
to
the cats that are apparently dying?
Cats are dying from bird flu?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah,
I need to read more. You read more than me, Wayne.
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed with just reading all the different scientific articles. But Science Magazine, which is the top peer-reviewed journal in the nation, it literally is. You get one publication in Science, it makes your career. It's extremely hard to get anything published in Science. Actually, I don't remember if there's a peer-reviewed study or just a report they did, but Science Magazine published a report indicating that there were just cats dying at dairy farms across the country. And they think the most likely cause is they're licking up the milk. There's spilled milk from cows.
Oh, shit, yeah.
The government has been covering up instead of being transparent about bird flu infecting cows, which is dangerous. They've been covering it up. And apparently it's much more widespread than we previously thought, the number of dairy cows that are infected.
I remember seeing something about like there being a high percentage of milk that has bird flu in it or something.
Mm-hmm. They have remnants of the bird flu virus. And the only
doesn't
reason
impact humans a whole lot, which is why they're able to just keep producing it and it's no big deal.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason is because if the milk is pasteurized and so on, it supposedly just destroys all the viruses and bacteria. But there's a lot of people who drink raw milk. And even if you're not drinking raw milk, there's a lot of workers and other animals that are being exposed to the milk before it's pasteurized. And apparently cats are one of the species of animal. And the reason that's particularly dangerous is it shows mammal to mammal transmission. It's not just that the birds are infecting the cows, but the cows are infecting each other and the cows are even infecting cats. And a lot of the cats are dying, which is super scary. Have you heard about the huge like seal die-offs? There's these huge, it's so fucking sad, man. Because a lot of them is just these babies, just all these thousands of struggling baby seals who've all been sickened from bird flu. And the bird flu is being driven by factory farms because you have wild birds who are coming to factory farm environments, pecking at some of the feces, the food, getting the virus into their own systems. And then their droppings end up on some beach where 1,000 seal pups die. And it's just a massacre. It's a massacre. And we know and the worst thing about all this is it's so easy to avoid because if we just got rid of these factory farms, none of this shit would happen. And we don't need them. There's such a waste of land and time and money and human beings.
But money, man.
It's money.
But money, man.
But money, man.
Yeah. It just makes me
All right, so
think of that meme, whenever you see something like super cringy on social media, or you get to talking about something horrible, I just think like, bring the asteroid. Just send it.
I didn't think you were going to go there.
Just send it.
Dude, you're talking like Thanos right now. This is a little scary.
I'm telling you, I said it earlier. I think we deserve
look,
any bad thing that happens to us. We deserve it.
We may deserve it, but I am optimistic. I think, again, the difference now is not that the world is in a worse place than it was 20 or 30 years ago. The difference now is we know the state it's in, and that means we can do something about it, right? We know our political system is broken. There's no one who can watch the most recent presidential debate and say, these are the two most qualified people to lead the nation.
They're not.
There's there's no one who can look at the vote that happened in Sonoma County in the Democratic Party and say, this is a thoughtful, deliberative Democratic decision. And there's no one who can look inside a factory farm and say there's anything ethical or sustainable about the system. And the difference is nowadays, people are actually realizing that. So that is an enormous sign of progress. And that's true regardless of what happens in November. On the presidential level, at the local level in Sonoma County, the fact that these conversations are happening and this education is happening is so crucial because it is the foundation of building something better and new. So we don't need the asteroid. We just need more people like you, Curtis.
That would be great.
But I agree.
I still think about the asteroid here and then.
Yeah.
One other thing that I wanted to mention about the Sonoma County Democratic Party and why I feel so strongly that there was like backroom dealings or, conversations happening before the meeting is because back in the fall, I presented to them to gain like an early endorsement during the signature gathering phase. So they did. They had me there, and I presented, and then they kind of had like a debate amongst themselves, and I was there present for that too, where they voted on whether to again like do this, like just endorse the signature gathering phase. Now that really wouldn't have like meant a whole lot because they would have then had to vote on it again if and when it became an actual thing. But that vote, and it was just me presenting, just me talking. I didn't have any fancy slideshow, none of that. I was just saying, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is why we're doing it. This is who we are. This is where we're from. I was very upfront, honest with them about all of this. They asked me a bunch of questions. I answered them to the best of my ability. And I didn't think I did like a particularly amazing job with this. Like as soon as I got done, I was like, damn, I wish so-and-so could have been there to answer that question. Or dang, like I wish, I could have had this to show them or whatever. But they voted. It was 9-11.
Wow. So it was very close before the corruption happened.
It was very close before it was.
And even though you made kind of basically barely any effort at all, it was close.
Yeah, it was just like, I remember getting notified like a few days before, like, hey, do you want to present or whatever? I'm like, yeah, sure. I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing. I was gathering signatures at the night market in Sonoma. And I took a break from that and went in my car. I mean, I was on my phone doing one of these, like, hey, everybody, I'm Curtis. It was just me in my car talking with them. And it was a very close vote. And they decided based on that they were just going to take no position on it.
Yeah. And then suddenly it turns dramatically against the ballot initiative when it gets on the ballot, despite a much better presentation, much more information, and no explanation for what causes the change. Yep. That's the part that shows something corrupt happened, that there is no explanation for the shift.
Yep.
I honestly feel like you should go back to every person who voted for you. I mean, maybe this is.
I don't have it.
And, you don't have the numbers?
I don't have the number. I don't know who exactly it was and everything.
So it's just, okay. That's
too bad. And the last thing I'll say about that, in the fall, it was under our belief at the time that this would impact roughly like 40 to 60 farms because we had included medium CAFOs in that.
CAFOs, yeah.
But after further research and uncovering more documents, more public records requests and all this, we've come to the conclusion that it's only 21 CAFOs now, like strictly
Mm.
large ones.
So it's even smaller impact.
It's an even smaller number of facilities now than it was then. I went to them in the fall and was like, hey, we're potentially trying to, shut down or alter 60 farms
60
in the county,
businesses, I see.
40, 60 businesses. And it was 9 to 11. And now it's 20, which the opposition and other people have basically come to agree with us on. That's the one thing that we've kind of agreed on. And it was completely lopsided.
Wow. It's messed up, man. It's messed up. All right. I want to end on a positive note, and we have been going for about an hour and a half, but so who are the heroes of this campaign? I mean, who are the people either in the political system or in the animal rights movement who you think really should be applauded?
Who should be applauded?
Yeah. Who are the heroes of this campaign?
Who's working on it? Geez.
I mean, Zoe's one of them to me, even if I don't know how much she's working on it, but the fact that she's facing these incredibly serious charges at a time where the issue has become so politically fraught, because she's essentially becoming she's become the
poster child for the opposition. Movement. They've kind of lumped. So there's like two kind of like campaigns or things that are happening in Sonoma County right now. One is the Ballot Initiative, which we've been talking about. The other is Zoe Rosenberg's looming trial. Zoe is a very prominent direct action everywhere activist who is facing a prosecution similar to yours for exposing conditions and rescuing animals from factory farms and slaughterhouses in the county. She is currently wearing a GPS ankle monitor, which I believe is a first for activists within like the direct action everywhere sphere.
It is.
Maybe for an animal rights activist in the U.S.
I've never heard of it.
I haven't heard of it. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have been charged for the dumbest things, and some things that, even in some cases, I think some animal rights, we should admit this. I think there are some cases where animal rights activists have gone too far. But even in those cases, I don't think anyone's ever had an ankle monitor.
Right. So she has an ankle monitor on, and she's had it on for over, I think, 100 days now or something.
100 days? Okay.
Yeah. I need to. Yeah, I should know that, but
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyways, they've mixed the issues together to the point where there was a hearing, like a pretrial hearing for Zoe, like a month and a half ago now, maybe a month ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a counter protest, right?
The opposition showed up to protest the Ballot
Initiative at her hearing. Yeah, wow.
It's like, wait a minute, did y'all get something wrong here? Like this isn't the day for this, but sure, great. It's awesome. Be here. It's great fodder for social media. Like the things that they were saying and chanting.
Yeah, the dumbest things ever.
Yeah, there was no sense of direction. It was completely chaotic, and I mean, it was great. When have we had? I've always thought that once we have counter protests at our measure, that's when we know we've really gotten to a breaking point.
Yeah.
We're really doing something. When we get counter protests,
because the industry's scared.
Exactly. And I think that is actually a good sign. And I look forward to more of it as we get closer to the election. I think it'll be great because it'll help draw more press. So Zoe is definitely one of the heroes of all of this. And
for the record, I think our response to them trying to villainize her is to show the world who Zoe is, because there's no one who knows Zoe. You and I both know her. She's our friend. I mean, I'm actually not allowed to contact her, but there's no one who knows Zoe who thinks she's actually a criminal or some sort of villain. This is someone who sacrificed so much to help other human beings and animals. The idea that this is the person who's going to be your villain. She's 20 years old.
21, maybe 22.
UC Berkeley student who's a reputable citizen, done just so much good for the world her entire life. And this is the person you're going to turn your villain. It's preposterous.
Yeah. So Zoe is up there, and she's drawing a lot of attention to all of this just by existing. Honestly, like she hasn't done a whole lot of direct action or protests or anything like that for the last few months, but she's trying. Being around. Just being around is controversial. So Louis Bernier is the other person that I would say has been doing a lot of work, been doing a ton of research on a lot of these
Also an
facilities.
incredible investigator. So
Yeah.
Lewis is one of the people who actually got enormous amount of footage through various methods, whether it's FOIA requests, working with whistleblowers, whatever it is, to expose these farms.
Yep. So definitely a lot of credit to Lewis. Cassie has been managing press, doing an amazing job ever since Maddie J left the squad.
What is wrong with Matty J?
I don't know. That
Can
could be we can do a whole nother like 4 hour.
I feel like,
conversation
we need to just
on,
grab him like a child and shake him. Well, that's actually super fucked up. You're not supposed to grab children and shake them.
Jeez, Wayne.
Yeah, this is becoming a very violent podcast.
Keep talking.
Are you a mole for the industry? Are you trying
Maybe.
to? This is my own podcast. I control publication rights on this. You cannot entrap me. No, but Matty J, someone just needs to slap the sense into this guy and get him to come back to California and work on some of this stuff, because he's an amazing activist and he's just doing his whatever. I don't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, I think I know what he's doing, but
video
we're not going
games
to
or
talk
whatever
about that here. Anyways,
Now everyone's going to be wondering what the hell Matt's up to.
Yeah, so Cassie's been doing an awesome job with press. And another testament to this ballot initiative is the fact that oftentimes we as activists, and not just in the animal rights space, but activists in general, are oftentimes like begging to get press, right? Like they're working hard, sending out press releases, trying to build relationship with journalists, trying to, produce exciting stories or exciting pitches and all that. For this ballot initiative, they're coming to us, they're coming to us. And it's like every other day, there's something in the press about it. Now, oftentimes it's not like portrayed in the best light, but I think we would rather have it. We'd rather have it out there to start the conversations than not. But yeah, Cassie's been doing an awesome job managing that.
She's a champ.
Yeah. Almira obviously has been doing amazing work. She has been kind of managing a lot of the paperwork or the unexciting stuff, just making sure all of that kind of stuff is campaign finance, business, if you will, kind of making sure that all of that is churning through and we're in compliance with various entities. Who else is taking on significant roles? Oh yeah, Christina, who lives in Sonoma County.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's got a full-time job, but she's kind of taken the reins on the coalition building efforts and kind of been managing those meetings and doing a lot of work on that front. There's
sounds like an amazing team. It sounds like an amazing team, and like I said, no matter what happens in November, and there are a lot of obstacles. I think it's winnable. I don't think it's unwinnable, especially if people work hard. And maybe I should be telling this to myself because I haven't done much for it. But I think it is winnable. And the people who hear this just need to get out. So maybe we should end. Can you just share what people can do to support this and just follow the campaign?
Yeah. So you can visit our website. It's yesonj.vote. You can learn more about it there. There is an upcoming convergence where we're inviting anybody in California, outside of California, to come to work on the campaign. There'll be a lot of door knocking. There'll be like a march and a rally. It's not going to be like a traditional animal liberation conference. I know a lot of people that follow you and listen to you, Wayne, are coming from like the DxE sphere, the DxE mind, and are aware of the Animal Liberation Conference. This will not be a traditional animal liberation conference. This will be hyper focused on the ballot initiative. There'll be a lot of door knocking, a lot of canvassing, and just community building in general. And that's happening August 23rd. And you can find out more about that again on the website. We've got it linked on our socials as well. So please come out to that if you're able to. Take some time off work. I know it's a big ask, but this is an amazing opportunity that we have. And again, if this passes here in Sonoma County, it could set up other counties, other municipalities, could set a playbook for it to happen in other places. And the industry knows that. That's why they're fighting so hard. They know that if this happens here, it could domino to other places.
Yeah, right.
and even if you're not in Sonoma County, and even if you're not able to come to the convergence, you can still make phone calls. And that can be done from anywhere. I know that when you were running for mayor, there was people making phone calls for you that weren't necessarily in Berkeley. And ideally, it's better if you're a voter in the county or you're local or close when you're talking to voters. One I'll say is a lot of people don't ask. They just either assume that you are, or don't ask, or just don't think to ask, or don't care. But even if they do ask, are you in Sonoma County or whatever? Like, we have a good counter to that, and it's like, no, I'm not actually. You could say, because I don't have the ballot process in my state, if that's true, or you could say, we don't have the resources in my county to tackle this issue, or the issue is the industry is so powerful where I live, or whatever.
And this affects everybody. It affects everybody literally on the entire planet.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't live in the 1950s world where not in our town is the way you think about things. Right. It's just, we live in a global world where there are global implications to these big businesses. And
that's how the Board of Supervisors thinks, not in our town.
Well, who else felt that way? The racists in the South who tried to stop desegregation. I kid you not. No, but look, as a person calling myself, I can say that the reason we passed the Civil Rights Act in 1963 and the reason we passed the INA, the Immigration Nationalization Act in 1965, that allowed my parents to come to this country is because people didn't have the mentality. There was a change in this country in the 1960s where people realized, look, not in my town is not a good argument for violence and cruelty and discrimination. And this board needs to see the same thing. And whether it happens this year or next year or 5 years from now, it will happen. So, and that's the reason we should feel good about things. We don't need the asteroid, Curtis. There is hope for the world. And it's happening one conversation at a time. It's happening one conversation at a time.
We can push the asteroid aside for now. I'll try to keep the asteroid out of my brain for a while, but I don't know that that's possible.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Any last words before we close this thing?
I don't know. Yeah. Get plugged into this ballot campaign. It might be a while before there's another one. And, for most of my activism or political work career, if you want to call it that, there's never been an actual, within the system's political campaign, aside from your mayoral campaign, where I felt good about it, or felt like there was a chance. You could
talk about animal rights.
And to talk about animal rights in like a serious setting or a serious manner where there's like a serious implication, like a law could be passed. And we have that right now. And I just hope that motivates people and people want to get involved.
You're here, brother. Yeah, I think the two most important things on the election in November are this and the Denver slaughter ban. Those are two things that everyone who cares about animals or cares about the future of life on this earth should be focused on. And if you're upset about anything that Curtis and I said about Trump or Biden, I'm happy to hear your concerns about that. But before I hear your concerns about that, you should get to work on Measure J in Sonoma County and the Ballot Initiative in Denver to ban slaughterhouses, because those things are so much more important than the presidential election.
Absolutely.
And that'll take another podcast to explain why. But both of these ballot initiatives are vastly more important than any conversation we have at the presidential level about Biden versus Trump. But again, that's a conversation for another day. All right, thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. Let's hang out sometime soon. I haven't seen you in a while. When was the last time I saw you? A couple weeks ago? Months ago? I don't even remember.
Maybe was it your thing when you got out of jail?
No, I've seen you since then. That can't be the case. Is that the case? No. That's ridiculous. Well, we got to fix that either way.
Yeah.
Let's hang out sometime soon. Okay.
I got to stay. Yeah, we will. Let's do that.
Thanks for all your work and send my love to all the folks. I should say, send my respect. You don't believe in love.
Yeah. I didn't say I didn't believe in love. I said I would feel better about
does Kaya know you don't believe in love?
Cause or whatever. If it,
Do I need to tell Kaya? Did you know your boyfriend doesn't believe in love?
Tell her what you want. Tell her whatever you want.
I know you love her. I've seen the way you look at her. You love her very much. All right. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you and all the work you're doing and keep fighting. Okay.
Likewise.
All right. Until next time.
Yep.
Bye. We don't have to hurt animals.
You can protect them. You don't have to kill them. We can care for them. And that's who we're meant to be, right? That's who we are when we're at our best. We're caring for each other and for the other living beings of this earth and not hurting them.